Okay, what I thought we would do this morning is do a little character creation for Midwest Fantasy Wargame because there is no tutorial, and since this is not the same as your traditional D&D retro clone, it's a little bit different. You've got multiple key attributes, only 3 of which are potentially prime attributes. So the first thing we need to do is roll up brains, guts, health, looks, and sex. So let's go. And these attributes are all 2d6. 2d6 down the line. 8. On the miscellaneous attribute as well. A lot of sex appeal. Brainy with sex appeal. Kind of like me. All right. And miscellaneous. 11. That's massive. So we might want to use the alternate skills. Weapons proficiency. So this too is very different, and this is going to be somewhat tedious. But for every possible weapon a character may use, the player rolls 2d6 to determine the proficiency score. This determines his base chance to hit an opponent. See equipment and local prices below. So we're going to flip ahead to the equipment page, which is 55-ish, 52, 53, somewhere in there. Here we go. So every weapon that's on the equipment list here, we're going to roll for and see what this person's proficiency is. That's quite a lot. So I'm going to pause the video right now and do that. So the next part of this is translating these into the actual weapons proficiency. So I rolled 26 2d6 using Discord. That makes it much easier. And then what I shall do is reorganize these so that you see on the left, I put my ranged weapons, repeating crossbow proficiency 10, heavy crossbow 7, longbow 7, javelin 8, and then my melee weapons on the right, warhammer 9, sword 8, two-handed sword 8, and mace 8. So when picking weapons out of the equipment to carry with me on an expedition, or when I find something on an expedition, these are the ones I'm looking for. But these rolls you still need to record somewhere back of the paper or somewhere like that. So I suggest rolling them first, picking them out, and then transposing them onto the front of the character sheet. All right, so now we return to generating the character. Secondary attributes are optional, right? So we don't need to do this. We're going to skip this temporarily. Saving throw. In general, the saving throw is 7 on a 2d6. So a general saving throw is always 7 in this. There are sometimes indications in the text for a spell or something else like a monster that the general saving throw doesn't apply. So saving throw is going to be 7 always. Prime attribute, optional. So I don't know what character I'm going to have at this point, but it looks like, since it's brains, if I want this 10% bonus to experience, the best thing I can do is make this guy a magic user. So I think I am at this point going to say that this is the prime, and we're going to call this guy class magic user. And this is one of the times when I changed from Arneson's original First Fantasy campaign, because he called all magic users wizards, but that conflicts with what so much D&D experience that a wizard is a high-level magic user that I chose to change that. Similarly, he calls fighting men or fighters warriors. I did keep that, though. All right, so we've got the prime attribute. We'll come back to skills as well. Skills and secondary attributes we don't need to do right now. Ancestry, so we can If we choose a human, then we can pick our alignment. If we do not, then we roll randomly for our alignment. And that too kind of plays into how things wash out here. So we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to say that ancestry for now. If I could write, it would be something else. And I'm going to pencil it in because it's always possible that you can get reincarnated. So we're going to pencil that in as human, and also some magic items could potentially affect that. So that's ancestry. Languages. So some creatures, so if you're a magic user, there's a chance to learn a language much easier than you can as any other class. So I will carve out a space here for languages. And the typical common language goes in here right now. My character wants to communicate, and attempts can be made to speak. The odds of knowing a major language such as Orc are 1 in 20 for warriors, rangers, and clerics, and 1 in 5 for magic users. If the language is not known, it can be learned by a character with enough brains. This takes time, and the referee will design his own rules on the subject. So alignment now. And again, in the draft rules, beyond this point be dragons, it was called division. I think by the 72 Arneson v. Gygax, it might have switched from division to alignment. But either way, you'll see me occasionally refer to division in the cosmic struggle. But to make it easy for people to pick up, we're going to call it alignment. And we're going to make this guy lawful, just to keep it boring and straight up the middle. So his alignment is with law. There is no alignment language in 1972. That's a later thing, and thankfully, I don't have to deal with it. Classes. So two primary classes, warrior and magic user. We already know that he's going to be a magic user. So now we talk about hits to kill, which are what they called hit points in the old days. So let's come over here to the magic user table. We'll skip past the cleric. Cleric has some innate abilities. Magic user. So hits to kill 1d3, and his title is apprentice, and he starts with 0 experience points. So all this stuff should be very similar to you for hits to kill. So I'm sorry, he didn't get 3, he got a 2. We were rolling 1d3, so a d6. So that would have been hits to kill 2. We got to put in a place for experience points here, EP. So we can put EP and level in here somewhere. We're going to put EP, and we're going to put level. And his title, I'm running out of space here. His title is an apprentice. And his level is 1. And his experience points are 0. We're going to keep moving through this pretty rapidly now. Apprenticeship we'll talk about later. That's an optional rule. Changing class optional. And we will have to pick out some starting spells for this guy, which makes this even more complicated than it needs to be. I think I have a section on age here. Let's get past this. Money and age, yes. Each character, so skipping past the spells for now. Money and age, this is on page 49. Each character begins the game with a number of gold pieces, perhaps as many as 3d6 times 10 within the campaign world. Character's age is determined by rolling 3d6 and adding 14. Character that is 30 or 31 years old doubles his starting gold, and the character that's 32 years old triples it. So let's roll his age first. So we're going to put that above ancestry. I should have laid out the character here a little bit better. So I need 3d6. So his age is going to be 8 plus 14 is going to be 8 plus 14. What is that? Brain is not working yet this morning. That's going to be 22. So he will not be doubling or tripling his starting gold. So now we're going to bring down, I guess we'll go to the bottom here. We'll start putting in gold. And I could put in silver and copper here if I wanted to. So silver, copper. Again, I'm still learning to write with this pen. Oh, there we go. So silver and copper are going to be 0 for now. And we're going to roll 3d6 for starting gold. This is very similar. And multiply by 10. 5 and 5 is 10, so that's 100 starting gold. So again, this plays into what equipment to give him or her. I guess we haven't chosen sex at this point. Timekeeping and recovery upkeep. So yeah, every year there's a table at the back here that is more in the DM section. So at the end of every campaign year, the DM is going to roll on this table from Tony Bath, and that table is going to determine whether or not the character suffers some kind of illness or death as a result of aging. And you can find that table on pages 204 to 202. It starts talking about on 203, but yeah, it's 204 here. And so all the major NPCs and characters, all at the end of the campaign year, there's just one time. We don't have to keep track of anybody's birthday. The DM just does it once a year and chooses whether, so in this case, I'm 22, so age 20 or below doesn't apply. So I'd be on this column. And then I would roll a 1d6. So we'll just do that real fast. So roll a 5. So 21 to 40. I rolled a 5. 2 to 6. Come over here, and the second roll, anything I roll on the second dice is going to mean that he's okay for the campaign year. So there's no need to even do a second roll. See how that works? So if I had rolled a 1, then I would have had to roll a second dice, and there was a potential for a serious illness or a death. And if it was a death, it could have potentially been a murder, or it could have been some other, accident, natural cause, or childbirth, or murder. There's another little d6 roll that you do to find out what happened. Serious illness, similar. There's a 1 in 3 chance of dying from a serious illness, but usually just lays the character up for a bit. And we leave more details on illness to the referee. The reason that's in there is because Arneson obviously had an illness table that made it into the Blackmore supplement to OD&D. All right, we're almost done with this character sheet. Let's go back. Here's a sample character sheet. I should have laid it out like this because this is very neatly laid out. If you follow this, you won't go wrong like I just did. Now, skills and secondary attributes. Secondary attributes are gated by the amount that you have in your key attributes. And in this case, I have a couple below average attributes that I need to go back and deal with. But yeah, let's do some secondary attributes here. Make it simple. So leadership, strength, and loyalty. So we're going to put secondary attributes here. Leadership, strength, and loyalty. 2d6 in each. So I got a 6 for leadership. And again, these are gated. We're going to take a look at what that means in just a second here. Got a 7 for strength. And we got a 7 for loyalty. So pretty average on these skills. But if you look at this, and if you read in the rules, leadership cannot exceed the stat to which it's tied. So in this case, I'm going to tie this leadership attribute to his brains. So I'm going to put in parentheses that's tied to brains. So he can't go above an 8 in this, even with a witch, right? Similar situation. The strength is limited by health. And in this case, his health is a 5. So this strength actually has to be cut down now to a 5. And I'm just going to put next to this health to remind myself. And then lastly, loyalty cannot exceed guts, which again was a 5. So because of that, he is not quite as strong and not quite as loyal as he otherwise would be. And you would expect that of a magic user. So nothing shocking there. Spells we'll get to in a minute. So skills, let's do the typical skills. So there aren't a lot of skills in the system. It's all 2d6, it's roll under. And the skills are limited to ones that you would expect to constantly be coming up. Now, skills are also gated, but they're gated by the average of all the skills measured against the miscellaneous score. So skills, in this case, we've got woodcraft. Let's just put an underline here. So woodcraft and horsemanship and flying and sailing and throwing. Sailing. Again, these are optional. The secondaries are optional, and so are the skills here, the secondary attributes and the skills. Secondary attribute of leadership's important, strength, similar thing, and loyalty. Didn't really need to have that because there's guts, but loyalty, think about loyalty as being measured up. So the magic user to which he is apprenticed, if you use the apprentice rules, the loyalty applies to that. So if he gets in a situation where his loyalty is tested, the DM could potentially force him to try and roll under a 5, which is not easy to do. All right, so let's do these. Woodcraft, so we got a 7. And miscellaneous here is 11, so I don't think it's going to gate anything, because really the average of these is not going to be 11. No, definitely not with rolls like that. So I don't have to even worry about these being gated at all. So his skills can progress pretty high because of that. And again, rangers progress in skills optionally. But anything can happen with a wish to a certain extent. So there we go. We've got skills. Throwing applies not when I'm doing a weapon, but if I'm throwing something else, like, I'm wanting to throw a mug at somebody, or wanting to throw a torch, something that's not a weapon proficiency roll, you'd use the throwing skill. If I'm chucking a boulder, if I've got super strength from a potion or something, that's going to be measured using throwing, not a weapons proficiency, because there is no weapons proficiency in boulder. Clear as mud. So that is the character sheet. I don't have the spells, but again, spells are a whole different animal. Maybe we should have a separate video just on spells. But even with me explaining this, I think you can see just how easy this is to roll up. It's not super complicated. The hard part is this, but since we have modern era technology, doing 26 pound sign 2d6 inside Discord handles this for you. So I lied. There's one more thing that I forgot to do. So there are 3 different manners of accumulating experience points in this system. There's a default system, and then there are optional systems. Actually, so I guess you could say it's 4. The third option is definitely the easiest. So each character is assigned a value for each of the 7 motivating interests by rolling 1d100 down the line. This motivating factor is multiplied by the amount of gold spent within the category to calculate the experience point award. So in this case, motivating interests are listed here on page 57. Intoxication, carnality, festivity, wealth, fame, piety, and hobby. And we are just going to do that for our magic user here. And for this, we're going to get out my trusty 20-sided D10s, because I like rolling with these. Well, heck, we'll use a regular D10 and a 20-sider. That'll make it easy. So blue will be the tens column, and red will be the ones column. So 61 for the first one. So intoxication, 61% interesting to me. Intoxication, carnality, trying to do this fast, so my writing is not great here, and I'm off center. Festivity, wealth, fame. So Arneson had a carousing system effectively before it was even known as carousing. Magic users, similarly, there was magical research and all that stuff. So Arneson's FFC, if you look at it, is just a real what if, which is why I wrote this entire retro column. All right, so here we go. We had 61 for intoxication. Let's write that down. 37 for carnality. So even though he's got some sex appeal, that's not of super interest to this magic user. 17 for festivity. He's not too interested in partying. 9. He's not interested in wealth. So he looks like he might be a barfly. He might be a barfly. 48. Fame is kind of important to him. Piety. 46. Somewhat religious. And his hobby, also 46. Weird. So he's a bit of a barfly. So if he spends his money in the bar and he spends his money on people helping him puff up his fame, which much of this can be done by NPCs attesting how awesome you are at defeating monsters and things like that, and your companions. Those two areas mean that he's most likely to be found at the local pub between adventuring sessions. There was something else. Oh yeah, health. Health and hit points. Hits to kill. Let's go all the way back here to health. So, and it also has to do with spells. So, a measure of physical indication of the character. A failed health check during combat may result in unconsciousness, serious injury, or death. So that's critical catastrophic damage. A magic user's health score is the upper limit of the number of spells he may cast during the week. And I think I might be confusing this with Dragon's Beyond, where health had an effect on the hit points, and I think I am. So forget what I said. The real measure of health, the real thing that matters here is he can only cast 5 spells per week, which makes him, it's going to make him very thoughtful about which spells he casts, I suppose. Definitely. There are 2 systems also for gaining magic points here. And yeah, I wanted to preserve that for another video. Anyway, you see character creation provides a little bit of nuance to the character. You don't have to worry about, what weapons to choose. The dice are going to choose that for you. You don't have to worry about, what your backstory is. This picks that and also picks how you're going to spend some of your downtime. And then the skills are going to tell you, where you really are strong. In this case, sailing. He would prefer to be, he slightly got a preference over being on the water than being on land. That's it. Not much leadership, not much else. And we could pick out equipment pretty easily. Magic users can't really do the armor thing at low levels, so it is what it is. It's not going to be hard for him to pick out weapons that have not a lot of steel component to them. So, interesting. I didn't think about that. Club and staff, he's got 7 in. He might just do that. He might just be stuck with a club or a staff. Well, we'll see how this pans out as we progress.